Today we're at the Cooperative Extension Service at the corner of George and Chestnut Streets in Goldsboro, and we're here talking with Jessica Strickland, the Cooperative Extension Service Horticulture Agent. How are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, you look good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being with us today.
Yes.
What are we talking about?
Talking about a couple of problems we've seen here lately, some samples coming in our office. One is nutsedge, weed that seems to be a problem every year.
That's
and
a
that's
big problem.
We've started seeing samples, so it's out there and growing right now. The other one we have a problem with that we've seen a lot of samples of is fire blot, especially on Bradford pears, but it happens on pears and apple trees. It seems to have been worse this year in our area than in past years, so we've seen a lot of it out and about in the county.
Well, tell us about the nutsedge. Where does that stuff, where does it come from? Where does it start, and what does it do?
Nutsedge, it's a weed. Whenever you group weeds, usually you say they're broadleaf, that's got the wider leaves, or it's a grass. A lot of people think this is a grass weed, but it's actually a sedge. It's in its own little group of plants, and that makes it a little difficult to control, and you have to look for different products to control than you would for your other types of weeds.
Now, this doesn't flower. It just, all it does is create problems.
It has some seed heads, and a lot of people think immediately that's sand spurs. But sand spurs, it would hurt when you touch them. These don't hurt when you touch them. They're pretty soft feeling.
Right.
And the problem is how it spreads is by the roots. It produces little nutlets. I don't think we got any little nutlets on the sample today. But whenever you pull those weeds, those little nutlets stay and then you end up with more. So actually pulling the weeds sometimes can create more problems than just trying to cut it down or spread.
So do you take a shovel or spade and go underneath?
If you can go underneath to do that, you can do that. I've seen people even in small areas use a screen to screen out some of those nutlets, but it's a lot of tedious work.
Oh, yeah.
As far as other control, mowing it before it gets to these seed heads can help, and keeping it cut low can kind of cause it to starve itself because there's not enough green leaf material there.
Before the seed heads become seed heads, does it look like this without the seed heads?
It does, yeah. And it's a little, a grass blade is flat, but this has a little more of a triangular shape. It's a little more folded. It has more of a V shape, and that's how you can tell.
That's just not lack of water, that's just the way it looks.
It is, that's the way it looks. Yeah, but
so it's kind of a folded, kind of a V shape.
It is, yes.
Okay.
And as far as control measures, usually you're looking at a product called Image. Is a common one, and that's for sedges. And you'll actually see it whenever you look at, if you go into the stores and you see all the herbicides, you'll see Image, and it says for nutsedge control.
Nutsedge. N-U-T-S-E-D-G-E.
Yes.
Nutsedge, right? Yep. All right. Now, this is fairly common.
It is.
And it's not only here, it's all over North Carolina.
Oh, it is. And lawns, vegetable gardens, all different places you can find it. And it can, spread, and it takes some persistence in getting rid of it. One application of a spray is not going to eliminate it. It's going to take some work.
Okay, nutsedge. It is the scourge, one of the scourges of weed world here in Wayne County.
That's right.
Weed world in Wayne County.
Yes.
We could do a program on weed world, couldn't we?
We could.
All right, what else do we have? We've got
a few pictures. Don't have a sample, but got a few pictures of fire blot. And like I was saying earlier, we must have just had the right weather conditions early in the spring whenever pears and apples were blooming, and this disease was spreading at the time, so we ended up with a lot of questions about why Bradford pears and apple trees were dying. The branches were turning brown, the leaves were turning brown at the tips, and it moving down into the tree.
Now this is a picture of a limb on a pear tree, I presume.
Yes.
And the limb, the picture shows that the limb is turning, the leaves turning brown.
It is,
and it'll drop those leaves.
And that's where the name comes from, is fire blot. It looks like a fire went through where the leaves are staying, even though they turn brown, they're still sticking to the tree, and it kind of has that fire appearance, like a fire had went through.
Well, what causes that? Is that a fungus?
It's actually a bacterial disease. So it's a bacteria that gets into the stem, and that makes it hard to control, because a fungal disease would stay on the surface.
It would.
Bacterial diseases get inside the plant, and that makes it tough.
Will you cut it?
You can prune it. Probably at this point right now, there's not a lot you can do about it because the damage is already done. But what I would do is in the wintertime do a really good pruning and cleanup. And when you prune, you want to be careful because that bacteria is inside the tree. Whenever you make pruning cuts, you want to sanitize or clean your pruner. So have some disinfectant wipes or something.
Clorox, maybe?
Some Clorox, something to dip them in to clean them in between cuts. Because if you make a cut and then you can actually spread it worse.
So the problem is already in the tree itself.
Yes.
It's in the limbs, it's in the branches. So cutting it and then disinfecting your pruners is one way of handling it.
It is. And
but you can't do anything about that right now.
Not much you can do right now. There are some like copper fungicides that can help, but usually you're looking at, this got in whenever the trees were blooming, and that would have been the time to try to prevent it, but we don't know year to year, is it going to be bad or not based on weather and so forth. It takes weather and everything to come together for it to be a bad year or a year that we don't see it.
Well, how do you know that? How do you know it's there?
Well, you really don't.
Before the leaves
You really
turn.
don't. So, and that's the hard part, is you're trying to prevent it, but we just don't know year to year if it's going to be a bad year for it or not.
So what's the other picture here?
The other picture is just another picture of it.
Okay.
And this one's a good picture in that it shows where the tips of the twigs and the branches curl. So we always say it has like a shepherd's hook. Crook to it. So if you see that curling, that's another sign that it's probably fire blot.
And fire blot is what it's
Yes.
called, fire blot. And is it fairly common in this area?
It is. Some
Bradford pears.
And other pears and apple trees. Some years are worse than others. This has just happened to be a worse year for it than previous years.
Does it affect flowering trees at all?
No, it's going to be your pears and apples.
Pears
That's
and
the
apple
two
trees.
it affects.
So it loves fruit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so if someone has a problem, cannot identify it, and they know it's fire blot, then they already know what that is. But if they have other problems, like what to do about nutsedge or some of the other weeds, dandelion.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
those things are terrible. They're beautiful when they're yellow.
Yes.
But they soon turn on you.
That's right.
All right, so what do? They call you?
Yeah, they can contact our office. We're located on the corner of George and Chestnut Street, and also our phone number is 919-731-1520. And we do have our Master Gardener Plant Clinic also. They're open Mondays and Wednesdays and located in our office. And you can bring samples and talk to trained volunteers with some of your gardening needs.
Is that 731-1433?
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
1433.
1433.
Yes.
Okay, 731-1433. And that phone is operational 24/7.
It is, so you can call and leave a message, and they'll return your call on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's from 10 to 1 is when they're in there on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays 10 to 1, but you can call anytime, 3 o'clock in the morning, and leave a message, and they'll call you back.
Absolutely, yes.
Can you bring samples in?
You can. You can bring samples in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Mondays and Wednesdays until they leave.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for speaking with us. And Jessica Strickland is the Cooperative Extension Service Horticulture Agent for the County of Wayne.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.